Volume 1, Book 4, number 210. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle drank milk, rinsed his mouth and said, "It has fat." Volume 1, Book 4, number 211. Narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle said, "If any one of you feels drowsy while praying, he should go to bed, sleep, till his slumber is over, because in praying while drowsy one does not know whether one is asking for forgiveness or for a bad thing for oneself." Volume 1, Book 4, number 212. Narrated by Anas. The Prophet said, "If any one of you feels drowsy while praying, he should sleep till he understands what he is saying, reciting." Volume 1, Book 4, number 213. Narrated by Amr bin Amir. Anas said, "The Prophet used to perform ablution for every prayer. I asked Anas, what you used to do? Anas replied, we used to pray with the same ablution until we break it with Hadith." Volume 1, Book 4, number 214. Narrated by Suwaid bin Numan. In the year of the conquest of Khaybar, I went with Allah's apostle till we reached as-Saba, where Allah's apostle led the Asr prayer and asked for the food. Nothing but sawiq was brought and we ate it and drank water. The Prophet got up for the Maghrib prayer, rinsed his mouth with water and then led the prayer without repeating the ablution. Volume 1, Book 4, number 215. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. Once the Prophet, while passing through one of the graveyards of Medina or Mecca, heard the voices of two persons who were being tortured in their graves. The Prophet said, "These two persons are being tortured not for a major sin, to avoid." The Prophet then added, "Yes, they are being tortured for a major sin. Indeed, one of them never saved himself from being soiled with his urine, while the other used to go about with calumnies, to make enmity between friends." The Prophet then asked for a green leaf of a date palm tree, broke it into two pieces and put one on each grave. On being asked why he had done so, he replied, "I hope that their torture might be lessened, till these get dried." Volume 1, Book 4, number 216. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Whenever the Prophet went to answer the call of nature, I used to bring water with which he used to clean his private parts. Volume 1, Book 4, number 217. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet once passed by two graves and said, "These two persons are being tortured not for a major sin, to avoid. One of them never saved himself from being soiled with his urine, while the other used to go about with calumnies, to make enmity between friends." The Prophet then took a green leaf of a date palm tree, split it into pieces, and fixed one on each grave. They said, "O Allah's apostle, why have you done so?" He replied, "I hope that their punishment might be lessened till these, the pieces of the leaf, become dry." See the footnote of Hadith 215. Volume 1, Book 4, number 218. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet saw a Bedouin making water in the mosque and told the people not to disturb him. When he finished, the Prophet asked for some water and poured it over the urine. Volume 1, Book 4, number 219. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. A Bedouin stood up and started making water in the mosque. The people caught him, but the Prophet ordered him to leave him and to pour a bucket or a tumbler of water over the place where he had passed the urine. The Prophet then said, "You have been sent to make things easy and not to make them difficult." Volume 1, Book 4, number 220. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said as above, 219. Volume 1, Book 4, number 221. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. A Bedouin came and passed urine in one corner of the mosque. The people shouted at him, but the Prophet stopped them till he finished urinating. The Prophet ordered him to spill a bucket of water over that place, and they did so. Volume 1, Book 4, number 222. Narrated by Aisha, the mother of faithful believers. A child was brought to Allah's apostle and it urinated on the garment of the Prophet. The Prophet asked for water and poured it over the soiled place. Volume 1, Book 4, number 223. Narrated by K. bint Meesan. I brought my young son, who had not started eating ordinary food, to Allah's apostle, who took him and made him sit in his lap. The child urinated on the garment of the Prophet, so he asked for water and poured it over the soiled area, and did not wash it. Volume 1, Book 4, number 224. Narrated by Hadith. Once the Prophet went to the dumps of some people and passed urine while standing. He then asked for water, and so I brought it to him and he performed ablution. Volume 1, Book 4, number 225. Narrated by Hadith. The Prophet and I walked till we reached the dumps of some people. He stood, as any one of you stands, behind a wall and urinated. I went away, but he beckoned me to come. So I approached him and stood near his back till he finished. Volume 1, Book 4, number 226. Narrated by Abu Wa'il. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari used to lay great stress on the question of urination, and he used to say, if anyone from Bani Israel happened to soil his clothes with urine, he used to cut that portion away. Hearing that, Hadith said to Abu Wa'il, I wish he, Abu Musa, didn't lay great stress on that matter. Hadith added, Allah's apostle went to the dumps of some people and urinated while standing. Volume 1, Book 4, number 227. Narrated by Asma, a woman came to the Prophet and said, if any one of us gets menses in her clothes, then what should she do? He replied, she should take hold of the soiled place, rub it and put it in the water and rub it in order to remove the traces of blood, and then pour water over it. Then she can pray in it. Volume 1, Book 4, number 228. Narrated by Aisha, Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh came to the Prophet and said, O Allah's apostle, I get persistent bleeding from the uterus and do not become clean. Shall I give up my prayers? Allah's apostle replied, no, because it is from a blood vessel and not the menses. So when your real menses begins, give up your prayers, and when it has finished, wash off the blood, take a bath, and offer your prayers. Hisham, the sub-narrator, narrated that his father had also said, the Prophet told her, perform ablution for every prayer till the time of the next period comes. Volume 1, Book 4, number 229. Narrated by Aisha, I used to wash the traces of janaba, semen, from the clothes of the Prophet, and he used to go for prayers while traces of water were still on it, water spots were still visible. Volume 1, Book 4, number 230. Narrated by Aisha, as above, 229. Volume 1, Book 4, number 231. Narrated by Sulaiman bin Yasser. I asked Aisha about the clothes soiled with semen. She replied, I used to wash it off the clothes of Allah's apostle, and he would go for the prayer while water spots were still visible. Volume 1, Book 4, number 232. Narrated by Amra bin Maimun. I heard Sulaiman bin Yasser talking about the clothes soiled with semen. He said that Aisha had said, I used to wash it off the clothes of Allah's apostle, and he would go for the prayers while water spots were still visible on them. Volume 1, Book 4, number 233. Narrated by Aisha, I used to wash the semen off the clothes of the Prophet, and even then I used to notice one or more spots on them.